no, straight, white, cisgendered men. Are y'all okay? Are y'all doing all right out there? Because you let one of your movies flop. Joker 2 or Folie à Deux flops at the box office with brutal audience reviews. This is pretty much across the board. And since we've established from the respectable YouTube critics like Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic that if the group that the movie has pandered to doesn't show up for the movie, then the movie flops because that group let the movie down. Since the movie features a straight, white, cisgendered male as the lead, that means your community didn't show up, and thus the movie flopped. That's the criteria we have. If a woman's in the lead and the movie fails, then women didn't show up. Thus, we need to have a conversation about the validity of women as the lead in films, or if a gay person is in the lead of a movie and that movie fails, then we need to discuss whether or not Hollywood should be pandering to gay people. That's how this works, right? That's how this whole system works. Movies that are filled up with DEI and feminism and all these things, they fail because of those reasons. So when you have a straight, white, cisgender male going into a movie exuding all of the attributes of someone who is a straight, white, cisgender man, then that means all of those things come into question when the movies fail. So we need to take a long, hard look at Hollywood's pandering to straight, white, cisgendered men in the last 10 to 15 years and how much money they've lost because of those flops. Let's do it. Let's go all the way back to 2012 and talk about John Carter, a whopping $250 million budget, and it tanked, grossing only $73 million domestically. Coincidence? Or is it really because of the lead actor, Taylor Kitsch, another white male dragging a movie into financial oblivion? Then we have The Lone Ranger from 2013. Despite the draw of Johnny Depp, this Western flop starring Armie Hammer lost Disney $190 million. Clearly, it wasn't the overdone Western themes, it was the white male lead. Then we have Robin Hood from 2018, an $86 million box office loss. Taron Egerton's leading man charm wasn't enough to save this. The blame, obviously, is a generic white guy in tights. That's clearly the problem. Let's jump back to 2017 with King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, a big budget epic starring Charlie Hunnam that cost $175 million to make, but only grossed $39 million domestically. Was this another medieval bomb or yet another victim of the dreaded white male lead curse? Here's another one, Ben-Hur from 2016, a $100 million remake of the classic flopped big time, grossing just $26 million domestically. Maybe audiences just couldn't stomach Jack Houston in the lead, yet another white male disaster. Look, all jokes aside, this movie, Joker 2, on paper, should have been a slam dunk as a follow-up to the first film. That first film was directed by Todd Phillips, who also directed the sequel, who says he left comedy to make the Joker movie, the original Joker movie, because woke culture ruined the genre. This is the guy who made The Hangover, right? He says he left that because of woke culture. This is one of your guys. Talking about like the grifty, chuddy space. This is one of your guys. He also came out and said that the studio had nothing to do with the sequel to the Joker. James Gunn didn't have anything to do with it. The studio didn't. They allowed him to make the movie that he wanted to make. Joaquin Phoenix signed on to the movie because he believed in the passion behind this project. Lady Gaga in the movie has a very limited role. She's co-billed because she's Lady Gaga, but she has a very limited role in the movie. So it wasn't because of her either. There was no DEI initiative. There was no wokeness injected into the movie. They actually portray gay intercourse as something violent and evil. All of this is in the second Joker movie. So there's absolutely no reason for them to not show up for the film. But they didn't. And now they're in a position similar to how they were with Furiosa, where they're trying to make it seem like a movie failed because of wokeness, because of DEI, because of all of this shit. And that's just not the case. And this rails against their narrative about get woke, go broke. They keep saying that's the reason these movies aren't doing well, instead of addressing the actual real issue with these inflated budgets in films and the actual films themselves. Most of them aren't even engaging in the content that they're talking about. I would guess a lot of them didn't even see this movie and they're still making video after video after video about it. I'm not here to try and convince you that Joker 2 was a good movie because I did not enjoy the film. I think there was a lot of issues with the movie. However, this idea that the movie was ransacked with this DEI stuff that the studio executives came in and made all these changes. None of that happened. Todd Phillips has said it himself. So if you want to place the blame on this movie failing because of lack of support, based on the criteria that Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker and all these guys have placed on films now, you should place it on the fact that the white guys, the straight, white, cisgendered men did not show up to support this movie. That is the sole blame. This is the kind of brain rot and bullshit that this community pushes when it comes to media literacy and movies not being successful. How dumb does it sound when I say that? When I go, this movie failed because it had a man in the lead, a straight white male cisgender in the lead. Clearly that's the reason why the movie failed. How stupid does that sound to you? How dumb does that sound? It's extremely stupid. And the reason why is because it's not the cause of the problem. The issues that Hollywood is experiencing with filmmaking and people going out and supporting movies is a very deep and nuanced discussion. But these guys that you watch, all of these channels that you support, keep saying woke, DEI, feminism, blah, 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 indoctrination, the message, the narrative. They keep saying this stuff to you and you keep buying into it. And it's just not true. Sometimes movies just aren't good. And the crazy thing, the baffling thing to me about all this is the first movie was a massive success story. Over $1 billion on what would be considered a shoestring budget for superhero and comic book movies. It was also championed by the far right and conservative people for a lot of the stuff that, do you remember the drama that happened about this movie's release, about how movie theaters were worried about people coming in and pew-pews and stuff like that happening, and they were doing no mask, and this movie supposedly did not have any sort of moral center to it or explain to the viewers that there was some bad shit going on, and so a lot of people were criticizing it for that reason. All of these things should have led to a massive success in the sequel. If we're talking about how billion-dollar movies work, remember what you guys said about Captain Marvel? The $1 billion that movie made was a fluke, and therefore the sequel, the follow-up, The Marvels, failed because of that reason. So would you argue that the first Joker's $1 billion was a fluke? Was it all a marketing thing, an advertising thing? Or is it the fact that that movie actually was a solid movie? It was a good movie at the end of the day, and the second one just might not be a great movie, and it doesn't have anything to do with who the film is pandering to? Because if we're talking about a movie that panders to a certain community, the Joker certainly had people in the conservative side and the alt-right community following this film heavily. This would have been the target audience for the second movie. So no, I don't believe necessarily that target audiences not showing up for a movie necessarily mean that the movie is bad or that's going to guarantee a failure of a movie. I don't believe that. You guys shouldn't believe that either. All this bullshit they keep telling you is so fucking stupid. And when I'm saying it here that, oh, this movie failed because Hollywood has a problem with white male leads, just even that coming out of my mouth sounds absolutely ridiculous. And anytime they say it about women, people of color, gay people, trans people, any other demographic, when they say that to you, it is just as stupid when they say it. You need to consider this when you hear them saying this next time.